It is elusive, but we tend to know it, especially when we see it, and even more so, I think, when we feel it. You know, when a leader really inspires us or makes an impact. And my greatest concern that keeps me up at night is the decline and really a crisis in leadership in Washington and in our government in general. To me, as I've taught leadership to executives and senior managers, what became evident was that the most powerful form of leadership is servant leadership. That if I serve my people, right, if I serve my employees, then I'm going to be really well served.
Yeah, right.
And that's so different than what's happening generally, maybe in parts of the country, but definitely in Washington among our leaders who are elected to serve. And they have gone into, to a large degree, too many of them, into self-service, to do things that are self-serving. And we know what they are. They're to get reelected. They're to get lots of money from lobbyists. They're to be a hero of their tribe, their extremist group, whatever it might be. But they've moved away from this notion, I'm here to serve the people who elected me. And that might be my district, the state, but certainly the country overall. So I'm wondering in my own mind, and have been for years now, why we've abandoned that approach. So, an example, you saw a leader who some of his values, or key principles, were modesty, right? To be humble, to believe in others, to draw out the best in people, to take on greater causes for the common good. And so I look around, like in the last election or two, and I talk to people, and I'll even do a little exercise like that, and they'll tell me their greatest leaders and their core values. But when I ask them, did they vote for their core values, I find such a shocking discrepancy between what they stand for as a voter and what they've done. And I'm trying to understand that. And doesn't it beg the question of, does character matter? You know, is it just getting some stuff done is all that matters, not how you do it or how you say it? And character used to, I think, mean a fair amount, even though we've always had a lot of corruption in government, right? We need to have folks who are unvarnished in the old kind of self-serving political ways, who have deep character. And why do I say they must have deep character? Because that's the only way that they could somehow overcome and avoid all the temptations to just become part of the selfish system, and to sign up for one tribe or one extremist group or another. I think you can be a leader who takes a lot of action off of your own, again, self-interest and your limited beliefs. But I don't know that you could have a constructive national leader anywhere who doesn't take some ownership for the culture, for the environment that we're in. I'm talking people, human environment here, not just the other one counts a lot too. And so if all you want to do as a leader is to act on your instincts or your beliefs and not seek to learn, not seek to engage other people, not to look for best practice, and that's just the what. The how is my concern, that how you do things matters. How you behave as you execute your role as leader really makes a difference, because there's this enormous force called the shadow of the leader And that can be in a small community, it can be in a tiny business, it can be in a little college. But when you're the head of the strongest power and country in the world, it really matters, the shadow that you extend, and so its effect on how other people behave and how they think, especially the ability to rationalize behavior. And what I do really matters. So if I ended up teaching anything to these really successful, powerful, wealthy leaders who in many ways knew way more than I did, what I helped them do was to develop a self-awareness. Not just the ability, but the courage to look at yourself and to develop mirrors in other people, to insist on feedback, to look for your shortcomings and understand them, and to find ways to help them do that, so that self-awareness became the greatest tool and strength for effective leaders. And these were people that led Fortune 100 companies. But we would take groups out in America's Cup 12-meter boats and give them half a morning to learn and practice. And they wouldn't ask very many questions, or good ones, but then when the races started, so competition against these other executives, I mean, the meltdown, the communication, you know, they got gone the wrong way or running aground or whatever. They weren't even on the race course sometime. That was a way of really getting receptive. Everyone I've ever said this to nodded, and the higher up the chain they were, they nodded, that the key to an organization's performance are the relationships of the people within it. And so as you start to examine relationships and leadership, issues just jump out enormously, dramatically, like trust. Trust is the coin of the realm, someone said here in government recently. But if there is no trust, there will be no openness, and there'll be no risk-taking, and there'll be no mutual support. Can't be any trust unless there's honesty. We're talking about relationships, but we're really talking about the values that make relationships successful, make them grow, make them exciting and rewarding. And what's happening today to honesty and openness, and transparency, integrity. And again, I'm not going to point fingers, but we know that it's eroding at a scary pace in our government.